ഗുഡ് ഈവനിങ്. മാറ്റിനി ഫ്രീ വെബിനാറിലേക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും സ്വാഗതം. ഇത് ആസ് യൂഷ്വൽ നമ്മുടെ ടെക്നോളജി സെഷനാണ്. പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഷിപ്പ് ബിൽഡിങ്ങുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് നമ്മുടെ രാജ്യം സ്വീകരിക്കുന്ന നയങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ചും അത് 2047 എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇംപ്ലിമെൻ്റ് ആകുന്നത് എന്നുള്ളതിനെക്കുറിച്ചും വളരെ വ്യക്തമായ ഒരു ക്ലാസ്സാണ് സാറിൽ നിന്ന് നമുക്ക് കിട്ടാൻ പോകുന്നത്. നിങ്ങളെല്ലാവരെയും പ്രോഗ്രാമിലേക്ക് ക്ഷണിക്കുന്നു. അതോടൊപ്പം വൈസ് അഡ്മിറൽ കണ്ണൻ സാറിനെയും. കണ്ണൻ സാർ, യു ആർ വെൽക്കം.
Thank you, Sabu. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thanks to Dr. Sabu for giving me another opportunity to speak to you. And today I'm going to touch upon a topic which pertains to perhaps the oldest capability and skill sets of the people of this country, which existed centuries back. Bharat, as it was known then, had the capability to build ships, obviously out of wood, and they were running on wind power, that is sail ships, almost from 2500 BC. Then these ships went out to sea for trade, for religious missions, for visits of rulers to other countries, etc. This expertise sustained for centuries in our country. From 2500 BC, it sustained and it progressed very well, and it had gone through the era of Cholas. Cholas also had a big fleet. Marathas, Shivaji Maharaj, they also had a very good fleet of ships. And it continued till middle of 19th century, when India was making a large number of ships for East India Company and Royal Navy, made out of wood. The wood came from Malabar. Malabar teak was used to build those ships. Till about 1850, this supremacy continued. But almost at that time, steel was invented in the West. And the techniques to fabricate a ship or use steel plates to fabricate a ship was developed in the West. And these advancements were not given to our country. They were not shared. They were denied. So what happened? India, which has been a supreme agency in building wooden hull ships, found that steel ships were overtaken in capability. Obviously, steel is stronger than wood. And slowly, the wooden hull ships market reduced, it slumped, and the demand for Indian ships reduced. At the same time, we could not make steel-built ships for many, many decades. Now, this shipbuilding activities, once they got slumped, we were behind time of what the progress was happening in many other countries in the West. So today we are going to discuss not about the days of pre-independence. I'm going to talk about what happened after independence. And we were making two types of ships. One is defense ships and one is commercial ships. As we go along, I will try to tell you what happened in the country and what was the influence of this shipbuilding activity on Indian economy. We'll also take stock of what is the present strength or weakness of India's shipbuilding industry and see how we stand against global standards. After seeing all this, that means after having talked about India's present status, India's weakness, India's strength. I will touch upon why do you want 1,000 ships in India by 2047? There must be a reason why you're saying 1,000. It's a big number. So we look at that. And if you want to achieve it, what all gains we will have to our country, to our economy. With this, I would like to upload my presentation. Sabu, can I share the slide, PPT?
Sure, sir.
Okay. So can you see my presentation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
Why does India require 1,000 new ships? I'm saying 1,000 new ships. That means from today to by till 2047, I am saying India requires 1,000 new ships. And can we build them? This is the question. And we will examine this in light of the strength we have in this industry. So a brief introduction. In our world, there are 200 coastal nations. Coastal nations mean they have a coast. They have a boundary with sea. And because they have a boundary with sea, they have certain EEZ area from where they can take resources. A coastal nation will become a maritime nation when you use the sea boundary for trade, commerce, fisheries, tourism, EEZ protection, shipbuilding, ship repair, and various other security operations. India is a major maritime nation. As I told you, we have a very rich heritage, which I talked about in the initial few minutes. And after 1850, also told you how it took a downward trend when steel ships started coming in the West. So when we became independent, we were endowed with a coastline of 7,200 kilometers and over 1,000 island territories. Some are in the West, some are in the East. And the first few decades, or first at least 6-7 decades, the shipbuilding industry has been focusing on defense sector. Everybody knows that we have made an aircraft carrier. Everyone knows we have made submarines. We have made so many ships. The focus of the Indian industry has been on defense sector, while the commercial sector, commercial ships which carry our trade, got lesser priority, and that led to the industry struggling in the commercial sector to cope with the requirements of Indian economy. Now Indian economy has reached the 5th position in the world. Has there been any change in the shipbuilding industry? We will see that. We are also a member of the Quad Security Dialogue with USA, Australia, and Japan. And we are supposed to join hands together for the security of the Indo-Pacific region. So this requires a fair amount of activities with respect to shipbuilding and ship repair for defense ships, not only for our country, but also supporting the other ships of the other countries, Japan, Australia, and USA, for any repair or any maintenance, etc. In addition to all this, in the last almost 7-8 years, the global attention has become on carbon control. So carbon emission needs to be reduced. There's a pressure on every country to reduce the emission from power plants, reduction from vehicles, etc. Roads, railways, all emission need to be controlled. So there is a requirement for us to divert some of our domestic transportation that is within the country using rivers and less of road and rail, which will result in carbon emission control. So that is also coming. That means you require more ships which will operate in the rivers in India, which will go to the sea and which can go up to the sea, but otherwise they can also connect many cities which are on the banks of the same river. So inland water transportation is getting more attention world over. So you require ships you require defense ships. Obviously, I told you the various reasons, but you also require commercial ships for inland water. On top of it, two more things have happened in the last 4 years. What is that? We are about to install and maintain offshore wind farms. Till now, we have been having only wind farms on land. But now, government is going to the sea to install them, operate them, maintain them. And the work has already started. Contract is going to be finalized very soon. So you will have many wind farms, offshore wind farms of Gujarat and of Tamil Nadu, etc. to start with. So you require ships which will take these and install them and then look after their operations and maintenance. We are going to start sea mining to remove metal deposits from the sea floor of EEZ. You require ships for it. You require ships to go there, pick up the item, and bring them back to land. So new technologies which are coming in also come with a demand for more ships. So you've got all these demands coming. Can India build the ships required for this? Or will we buy the ships from abroad or hire them from abroad? What is our strategy? What should we do? So very briefly, we'll look at this topic as we go along. So just showing you India's, the red dots indicate public sector, yellow dots indicate private sector shipyards. We have got about 21 private sector shipyards and 8 public sector. The biggest one is in Cochin, and the newest one is in Chennai, Larsen Tubro. It's a private. And there's also the oldest one in Calcutta, which is of Garden Reach. But today, only 19 shipyards are functional. Others are financially, they have become bankrupt and they're closed down, etc. So we've got 19 shipyards. And soon, one more shipyard is expected to become operational. So we will have 20 shipyards. And the details are here for anyone who wants to see it later. What is the size of ships which you can build? But just remember, Cochin Shipyard is the biggest shipyard we have in the country. Rest are all smaller than that. And large number of shipyards are in the bottom category, if you see. 15 of the shipyards are making only small size ships, are capable of building only small size ships. And the shipyards which can make big ships are very few. So that is a pattern of our infrastructure. That is a pattern of ships we can build. So with this, keep this in mind that we have more predominant number of shipyards which can make only small ships, and the bigger ones are limited. So why is shipbuilding so crucial to a country's economy is a question. So what if you don't do shipbuilding? What will happen? You can always hire ships as you want. Why should you build your own ships? Why should you own your own ships and operate them? So let us see a few reasons, economic reasons why. I have listed 7 reasons. So we'll go one by one. Today in India, 95% of trade by volume and 70% by cost is carried by sea, not by land, not by air, by sea. So sea is our medium for trade, export and import. Therefore, we are dependent on ships operating from our coast. And if you have Indian ships carrying critical imports like crude oil, natural gas, and something else, which is very critical to us, then the economy is more safe. We are not at the mercy of some other foreign ships. So it's important that we have enough ships to carry our trade. You can't have all the ships, but a percentage is required. We'll come to that point in the slide. If you look at this, these are exports and imports. As I told you, 84% of our trade is carried by foreign ships. We carry only 16% by our ships. So 85% is a very high number. The 16%, we need to expand a little more because we need to carry, it's better that we carry our own oil, our own natural gas, and tomorrow we may have green hydrogen, we may have minerals to be carried. So it's better that we build up capability in these areas so that we carry our own items in our ships. And today there are 500 ships which India owns, which is registered in India. Very good, important point. But 40% of them are more than 20 years of age. So if they're already 20 years of age, by 2032, 34, they'll become 30 years. And then later in 44, they'll become 40 years. So these ships have got some operational life left. But to build a ship also it takes time. So just remember, we need to build another 200 ships when the present old ships retire, are forced to retire. So we need 200 ships to carry international trade as a substitute for the existing ships, which are 20 years plus now. Slowly, we have to retire them and bring in new ships. So 200 ships are required to carry our existing trade, but our trade is not going to be at this level. It's going to grow. So we should cater for more ships. We'll discuss. But just remember, 200 ships are required for replacing the existing old ships. Let's see the next one. Shipbuilding is called a derived industry. Very important point. I will show you the graph on this. That means shipbuilding, if in shipbuilding, one man is employed, 1.9% is employed in the tier 1 supplier, 0.76 in tier 2, and 1.7 in tier 3. These are our suppliers. The suppliers can be for material, can be for services, right? So employment potential of a shipbuilding activity is the highest amongst all other activities. In car manufacture, it's around 3. In construction activity, it is around 2.5. But in shipbuilding, the employment potential for one person working in the shipyard, there'll be another 4 to 5 people working outside who are related to his work. So there is a need for looking at this aspect towards economy. Employment generation is a very positive feature of shipbuilding, also of ship repair. Both these go together. So it's a high employment potential activity. Next, large number of MSMEs are required for shipbuilding because they provide material, different types of material which are required. They provide the services which could be for either for fabrication, or it could be for testing, or it could be for design, etc. So you have MSMEs who are the backbone of economy of any country, including our country. We need to encourage shipbuilding so that more and more MSMEs will get jobs, they can improve their business, and that will take care of the economy in a way. As it is seen, 45% of India's manufacture takes place in MSME, 45%. So will have more MSMEs if shipbuilding is active. So it's another reason why shipbuilding should happen in a country. But if you're a landlocked country, how will you take out the ship? Ship is built on land. You cannot take it out to sea that easily. So maritime nations, coastal nations have an advantage that they can do shipbuilding if other conditions permit. And that has got advantage of employment potential, trade. MSMEs will get set up in a larger number. Further, if you can build your own ships for Coast Guard and Navy, like India is doing, then you will find our security scenarios better because it has got consolidated. We can design also We can build also. And today Navy has got 150 ships. 80% is built in India. Coast Guard has got 185 ships, but many of them are small. 90% is built in India. So India has got a huge amount of locally constructed defense ships. I told you some time back, the first many decades of after independence, the focus was on defense sector and not on commercial sector. That has benefited both the Navy and Coast Guard to have a large number of ships, and Navy designs its own ship as well. Now, there's a pattern also which is there, just for sharing part. Most of the Navy ships are built in PSUs. Most of the Coast Guard ships are built in private shipyard. So that pattern is also there in the data, but that's not so important for today's discussion. Now, I feel by 2047, Navy will require 50 more ships. Some are for replacing retired ships, some are addition. Similarly, Coast Guard also will require 50 ships, retirement plus addition. So, defense ships, another 100 ships are required by 2047. Some time back, we said for trade, we require 200 ships. So 200 plus 100, we already come to 300 ships. So let's go further. Inland water transportation and coastal shipping. Coastal shipping means from Chennai to Bombay, Goa to Visakhapatnam, like that, which happens from coast to coast. A lot of Indian domestic products itself are using the sea route. Cars made in Chennai are taken to Gujarat, not by road, brand new cars, by sea, because it is cheaper. So you require coastal shipping as well as inland water to be encouraged for two reasons. One, it is definitely cheaper. You can look at the graph. The cost is much less. Fuel consumption is much less. And pollution is also less. Why? You're not using road, trucks. You're not using trains. So those pollution is not there. Instead, you're sending by sea, where the fuel burned is less, and therefore pollution is less. So there is advantage in cost. There's an advantage in pollution. Now, government has done something recently, a policy that inland water, which normally operates in a river, can go for 5 miles into the sea if it is built with a certain specification, so that along the coast, let us say there's an inland water which comes out of Alleppey, it can go into the sea. Otherwise, it's not permitted. Earlier, it was not permitted. Now, the government has permitted you go to sea, but along the coast, you go to Cochin. So what happens? It brings the cargo up to Cochin port. Earlier, it was offloading at Alleppey, and then by road, it used to go to Cochin, and then again offloaded in Cochin. With this authorization, many riverine vessels can go into the sea, not beyond 5 miles, but along the coast, it can go to nearby ports. Thereby, there's a better integration between inland water and coastal shipping, thereby reducing road and rail. Less expensive, less pollution. These are the advantages. India has about 1,000 coastal and inland water vessels today. 1,000. And 50% of them are more than 25 years of age. They may run for another 10 years, 15 years, etc. So we need to replace them. When they retire, some other ship has to come. And on one hand, you're saying, let us send more vessels by inland water. In the other one, when they have to retire, we have to substitute. So 50% is expected to be retired before 2047. So you require 500 more ships for inland water and coastal operations. First, we said 200 for overseas. Then we said 100 for Navy and Coast Guard. Now we are saying 500 because they have to substitute the retiring ones. So 800 ships we require to be built. They can't be built in even 5 years or 1 year or 2 years like that. So people have to plan in advance. How are we going to substitute? So 800 ships we are counted before 2047. Let's go forward. One factor about having more Indian flagships is that payments can be made in rupee and not in dollars. So we save on foreign exchange, and we also save the transportation cost if it is Indian ship. So more number of Indian ships, logistic cost reduces. It's better for the economy. The aspect of logistic cost, etc., will come in another lecture, which I have planned sometime later. But today you need to understand more number of Indian ships. Cost of transportation is less. On top of it, foreign exchange saving is also there. So it is desirable to have more Indian ships. Right. Now, the last point, the seventh economic reason. We're going to soon have offshore wind farms and sea mining, as I told you initially. So you will have these wind farms in the sea. They had to be installed, they had to be operated, they had to be maintained. All those require ships, maybe small ships, but you require. Similarly, you look at this sea mining. A ship is there at sea, and this depth is normally about 400 to 500 or even 800 meters. So you require a ship which will be there, which will suck the materials from the floor of the sea, take it up, wash them well, and throw out all the mud and this thing back to the sea. And then another ship will take it back to the land, to the factory. So when we start sea mining, which is all the research is over, all the trials are over, which will be waiting for government, not government sanction, UNO sanction from International Seabed Authority. When that starts, you require a large number of ships for sea mining. And West Coast will also have, East Coast also will have. So the same ships cannot be just diverted to East and West just like that. So you require a separate set of ships in the East Coast, separate set of ships in the West Coast. And it will be right from Gujarat down up to Kerala. Similarly, there from Calcutta down up to Tamil Nadu, you require ships to be deployed. So 50 ships for windmills and 50 ships I'm taking into account for sea mining. So we had come up to 800, 200 plus 100 defense vessels plus 500 inland plus coastal. Now another 100. So I have already come to 900 ships we require progressively from now towards 2047. Ships will retire, new ships will come. So we have to embark on a plan how to build 1,000 ships for India when we become 100 years of independence is celebrated in 2047. So there are many economic reasons I've already explained to you. Now, what are the factors affecting India's ship production? It is very India-specific situation. Let us see. The factor affected in a ship production is there are 5, 6 reasons. There should be infrastructure. I already told you we got about 20 shipyards in India, and some are making capable of big ships. More number of small ships. I've already explained to you. There should be skilled manpower, and I think there's enough manpower in this country. We are lucky we have enough manpower, and there's a skilling program which is going. So I don't see any problem on availability of manpower. We've got enough people who can be trained and skilled. Design talent is an issue. We are not capable of designing all the type of ships which we want. The Navy is able to design some ships for itself. Coast Guard cannot design a ship. They depend on some private company or the shipyard or some foreign company to design their ships. Next point, we don't have all the materials required to build a ship. We'll talk more about it, why this is a serious issue, why materials are not available in the country. And if materials are not available in the country, you have to import them. When you import them, they know India is buying it. Your cost is high. So if your cost is high, your cost of ship is high, so you won't get any orders from abroad. But we are not looking at abroad orders now. We are looking at India's own requirement of ships. So if materials are not available in the country, we have to import. And if you have to pay more money, we have to pay more money. We are building our own ships. But we have to examine this, how to have a long-term solution for this. And last is government reforms. Government reforms can be in policy of allocation of ships for building and financial assistance and etc., etc. So we'll talk more about it. But as per me, there are 4 factors out of those 6 which I told you, which are today affecting adversely. They are not helping shipbuilding the way it should. 4 factors, very India specific. First is we are depending on design on either the import design or the customer. Navy is a designer of ships. It'll give design to Cochin Shipyard to build an aircraft carrier. Navy is one organization. Cochin Shipyard is another organization. They have to work together to build a ship in good time. But this togetherness always does not happen. There could be some problems in design. There could be some problems in production. So you find delays take place. When delays take place, cost goes up. All of you have read in the papers many projects where this problem has been experienced, be it submarines or be it in ships. I will not go into details of project-wise, but if you're depending on a design outside the shipyard, then you have to make sure it doesn't affect your correct construction schedule. If you're importing a design, then there's no problem. You import, design comes to you in the computer, and you build as per that. But there's a problem. When an imported design is bought by the customer says, I like this design. You build the ship as per this. He tells Cochin Shipyard, you build the ship as per this imported design. Customer is happy because it's a nice design and he has seen that type of ships in other countries. But when an imported design comes to our Indian shipyard, the design will tell, use so-and-so engine, use so-and-so gearbox, use so-and-so generator, use so-and-so equipment, and all of them will be imported. It's very difficult for somebody to say, no, I will not use this gearbox. I will use something else from India. Not possible that easily, because the design is his, and he says, I will validate the design at sea only if you use the equipment I say, and he will say only equipment from abroad. This is a serious problem in Indian shipbuilding. We are depending on design to be imported, which comes with this requirement of imported equipment, or from the customer, like in the Navy, where some coordination issues happen. So I've told over this. This is the next point, infrastructure utilization. How to use your infrastructure. How ships are built. I told you, ships are built on land. They are not built at sea. You see this. The top photo is a dry dock. It's like a pit where the ship is built. And when it is ready or ready to be floated, the gate here is opened. Sea will come inside. Sea water will come inside. Ship will float and she'll be taken out. And it will be free for the next ship. So this dry dock is one way of building a ship. Another way of building a ship is you build the ship on land here. It is built on special stools or benches which can be lifted and trolleys can move them. And they will come here on this blue. You see this different color? That is a lift, just like the lift in your house or lift in your office. It's a lift. So the ship will be put on top of this and the lift will go down. When it goes down, the ship will float and ship will be pulled away and the lift will come back after the ship is gone. This is called a ship lift. So the advantage are there for this. They're not going to discuss that, but the ships are built here. More than one ship can be built here. One by one, they can be put in water. Here, a ship is built, it has been taken out, and then only the next ship can start. The important parts of it. So the capability of a shipyard depends on what is the size of this dry dock or this pit, or what is the size of this lift, how big a ship it can be put on the lift. The lift also has got some limit. This lift like you see passenger lift, 10 people only can go, 12 people can go. Similarly, this also has got some capacity limitation, 20,000 tons, 15,000 tons, 8,000 tons. So you have to load it accordingly. So we have grouped shipyards in different category, which I've already told you earlier. But the important factors, out of 20 shipyards in India, 15 are for small ships and 5 are for larger ships, out of which one is Cochin Shipyard. So we have a distribution of our infrastructure in such a way that we are well equipped to build small ships, but not having enough infrastructure to build larger ships. So let's go forward. India's rank today in shipbuilding is 22nd. First is China. 44% of ships of the world are built in China. Then South Korea, Japan, etc., etc. We are number 22. And we produce only 0.14%. Very small quantity of ships we build the country today. There are many reasons. Some of them I already explained to you. So there's a reason why we are so low. Our PSUs have got high capacity. You can see from this. DWT means deadweight tons. So don't bother about that. It is the total capacity of how many ships it can make. While all the private shipyards is less, they are smaller. In the 4 years of delivery between 18 and 22, from the government report, public sector has given only 51,000 tons, while private sector has given 1,44,000 tons. So you find that public sector productivity is only 22%. Private sector productivity is 87%. There are many reasons for this. It's a separate topic to be discussed. But all I am telling you is public sector productivity is low. Private sector productivity is extremely high. One of the reasons is private sectors are struggling for money. So they do their work fast so that the ship can be handed over and get the money. In public sector, this sort of urgency is not there. I'll just leave it at that. We can discuss this during question and answer. So there is an issue of productivity and utilization of capacity in public sector. And some of the big shipyards are in public sector. Cochin Shipyard, Visakhapatnam Shipyard. These are two major shipyards which are very high capacity. So there's a need to look into this, why it is happening this. And big shipyards should do big ships, not small ships. Small ships should be done by small shipyards. So big ships are not being done by big shipyards, and they do small ships because they got a big facility. Then the small shipyards are struggling. So there is a need for distributing your load. I'm talking about 1,000 ships. I've already come to 900. That when you distribute, you should look at how should it go to big shipyards, how much should go to small shipyards, how to help the small shipyards to do their job. All these factors need to be decided in the government reforms. So in a national interest, for country's interest, there should be a distribution of work based on the size of the ship and the size of the shipyard. So I leave it at this. We'll come back to this point later. Sufficiency of ancillary industries. Sometime back I told you that we don't make enough materials in India. It's not available. Everything is imported. A ship's cost, 70% is material. Labor is some 15 or 18%. Balance is administrative expenditure, finance cost, some profit, etc. But remember, 70% of a cost of a ship is material. And for a commercial ship, which doesn't have radar and gun and missiles, etc., 2/3 of this cost is imported. So you find that we have huge amount of import content if you build a commercial ship. While in a defense, this content is less. The reason I will tell you as we go along. The Navy had faced this problem from 1960s. In 1970s, Navy started indigenization in a big way, and it yielded huge success. So for the naval ship, and to a certain extent for the Coast Guard ship, defense ships are able to get large amount of materials from within the country, even though they are of a higher specification. And we are buying it, we are using it, and the naval ships and Coast Guard ships are fitted with this. But for commercial ships, that much of availability of indigenous items is not there. And people abroad are prepared to sell to you material, general material, at a lower cost than what is available in India. But what is specified in the design, the engines and the propeller and the gearbox and the generator, etc., that he will increase the cost. Because the designer will not say, no, you cannot use any of those items. I have told you in my design is validated only if you use this. For that, the cost will go up. But for general items, the cost will come down than just below the Indian. So the shipyards which are trying to make some profit go for easiest availability or lowest cost. So there has to be a hard decision on this. Why should we import so much when we are building our own ship? So be it. Let's make it in our country. Let it be more expensive. How does it matter? It's our own ship. So some thoughts like this need to be discussed, and some new rules and reforms need to come. We don't have a dedicated agency like the Navy to do indigenization for commercial ships. Nobody is doing it. I find the best agency to do is DG Shipping under Ministry of Shipping. He should undertake this. Government should task him, but it has not happened so far. So Indian shipyards also don't have associated parks. It's a support system where all the vendors are setting up their shops so that we can immediately supply item, immediately give services, etc., etc. It exists in all the foreign countries, where all the foreign shipyards, you will have an associated ancillary park where all the vendors have their outlets for quick support, especially for ship repair. We don't have a single shipyard in India, not even one, where an ancillary park exists. Every vendor is 15 kilometers away. By the time he responds to you, it is nearly 2 days. So this also affects delays in ship repair and shipbuilding, etc. So this also needs to be looked into. Of course, many of our shipyards are in big cities. Take the example of Cochin Shipyard. It's in the heart of Cochin Shipyard. So where will the park come? There's no place. Park requires a huge amount of area closely linked to the shipbuilding activity. So these are some things which are to be done. And there's a slide coming on this, what India is planning to do. So I'll talk about it more at that time. Another thing, there's a ship-related activity which I'm going to talk about. It's called ship breaking. We break ships more numbers than we build, naturally. We are number one in the world for ship breaking. So that is our strength. Why can't we use that strength of ship breaking to get orders for ship building? Government is looking at this. I'll talk about it in a subsequent slide on government reforms. But try to use that strength of ship breaking. It takes place in Alang in Gujarat and Kakinada in Andhra Pradesh, etc. Bangladesh was number 2. I don't know where the situation now is, but we are number 1 in the world for ship breaking. Now, the last point is government policies. Government policies are very important. There are a huge number of policies which have come, but I will just run through. There was a subsidy scheme in 1997, which was restarted by the present government in 2016. 4,000 crores were allocated. Only 250 crores were taken. Only 250 crores of 4,000 crores allotted have been taken. There are no takers, and this can be taken only if you get order. If you don't get order, shipyards don't get order, and government places order only on public sector mostly. So what happens is private sector shipyards, they're not able to get order from outside. They don't get order within the country. So they are in real struggle. Anyway, shipyards were given infrastructure status in 2016, so they get soft bank loans. There's two documents that have been prepared by Ministry of Shipping of MY, Maritime India Vision 2030 and 2047, which is talking about how they'll improve shipbuilding. Some of the ideas which I'm talking today have been taken from those documents, but it's a very well prepared document. One of the best government documents I've seen published in the last 5 years. So the 2030 MYB wants us to come to 10th rank in the world by 2030. They are 22nd, if you remember, I told you. We want to jump to 10 in another 6 years' time. Difficult. And we want to be in 5th rank by 2047. So let's look at how do we do this? How do we come there? 25,000 crores has been allocated in the budget for Maritime Development Fund. The details of how this will get utilized, etc., has not yet come from the government, but some reforms are being talked about. There's a viability gap funding which has been given, which is also not being, details are not given. But today we are at less than 2%, 0.2% of production in the world, when China is 50%, Korea is 37%, and Japan is 10%. What is balance is 3%, 50 plus 37 plus 10, it goes, 97 is gone. 3% is shared by countries like Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, India, Sri Lanka, like that. And we are doing less than 0.2%. We should be doing much more, but that's not happening. How to do it? How can we do this? So let us, I've told you the 4 factors which are adversely affecting our performance: design, infrastructure utilization, ancillary industries can't supply material, there is no parks for ship repair which can work very well, and government policies, there are no takers. Government is allocating money, but shipyards are not able to take the money because they are not getting orders. So somewhere, government reforms are not given the desired result. I'm just doing comparison of global shipyard versus Indian shipyard. Very interesting data. There are 283 shipyards in the world. India has got 20, 7% in India. There are 436 dry docks. That is where the pit, where the ship is made, big or small. India has got 34, 8% in India. Employment, 6.9 lakhs, that is 0.69 million world over. India is 30,000, 4% in India. Not bad. All higher than the 0.12% of production. Our production is only 0.12%, but we've got 7% dry dock, 8% dry dock, shipyards. It's all in good number. Capacity, so many DWT for the whole world, we are 20 million, 0.09% in India. So this is something very close to the 0.12% which we are looking at the production. There should be a better way of utilizing our capacity. Ships registered, we only have 1,500 ships in India. Just remember that. We have only 1,500 ships. We already talked about it. 500 for foreign trade and 1,000 for inland plus coastal. So only 1,500 ships are registered in India. Last point. Largest shipyard in the world is Hyundai, South Korea. Commissioned 1972. Largest shipyard in India, Cochin Shipyard, 1971. Almost same age. Hyundai has built 2,300 ships in that 50 years or 52 years. CSL has produced 175 ships. Obviously, something is holding back CSL. It could be many reasons. It could be availability of material. It could be government reforms. It could be design capability. It could be productivity of labor. So many issues. But you see this picture. Obviously, the government in Korea is encouraging shipbuilding, which is not the case in India, even though we've got many reforms. The reforms are not showing results on the ground. And that's why we are stuck at 0.12% of global production. Matter to be examined and solved as early as possible, because we are a maritime nation and we need to overcome this. So how to improve Indian shipbuilding? I'm just saying 4 areas very quickly, 1, 2, 3, 4. First is design, production, concurrency should happen. What it means is, as you're designing the ship, the construction also should start. Both should go one after the production should follow the design very closely. If you're buying an outright design from abroad with all the list of equipment, then it is one situation. So let us look at I need to do this hyperlink, but I'm not able to move this guy away. Okay, I got it finally. So design production concurrency in Indian shipyards is like this. Commercial ships, all design comes from abroad, most of them, who say so-and-so equipment to be used, machine to be used, engine to be used. Concurrency is high, where designers come and you start the production. So concurrency is high because designers already come before you start production. So it is very good, but import content is high. Concurrency high, import content is high. Naval ships, designed by India, there's a little bit of problem I told you regarding coordination, etc. Synchronization is not all the time good. MOD started a design bureau to overcome this problem in Kozhikode in 2011. I think it's about to be closed down. It's not working. So government's initiative to solve this issue of design production concurrency to be made higher is not yielded result yet. Concurrency is low in naval ships, but Indian content is high because indigenization was good. So Indian content is high. Coast Guard, concurrency is moderate, import content higher than Navy. What we want is high concurrency and low import content. We need to do this. That means our design and production should go very closely to each other with more of Indian equipment, more of Indian material. If you do that, then shipbuilding will get consolidated and will not get adversely affected by import or influence of foreign design, and also the customer being told by the government, you make it in India, no buying from outside. We need to pursue Atmanirbhar India, Atmanirbhar Bharat in shipbuilding much more vigorously than what you're doing today. So utilization, I'm just telling you an important point. DRDO has recently made a huge facility in Visakhapatnam by which you can make a model of the ship and test it. Till now, all this testing was done in Europe, but now that's not required. We can do it in India. It's a good development. So more and more design validation can take place in India. Design can take place in India. Validation can take place in India. I think this is an important aspect which we need to address. So there are raw human resources available, facilities available, but a national strategy to strengthen design and concurrency between design and production, I think that requires to be firmed up. Indigenization I already talked about. Policy of allocation of commercial ships to shipyards, I told you about. Small ships should go to small shipyards. Help them, encourage them, support them. And big ships should go to big shipyards, and they should not come and take small ships to their big shipyards. So government needs to look at this. Otherwise, we can't build all the 1,000 ships which we want. We already come to 900 so far. Another 100 is remaining. I'll come upon that. Government schemes should attract sufficient response, but that's not happening now. So let us look at what is going to be planned. I told you some time back, government wants to combine shipbuilding and ship breaking. For information, ship breaking is also called recycling. So they want to combine ship recycling along with ship building. So they say you break a ship in India, obviously it costs some money. 40% of that cost, I will give you a discount if you place an order for a ship. So government is examining this, how these two can be combined. And they're also trying to give subsidy for ordinary ship 20%. If you're making an oil, gas tankers, 25%. Please remember, some time back I told you, for carrying critical imports, we need to have Indian ships. So oil, gas, etc. There is a higher subsidy given to the shipyard, saying that take money from government, build it for our own use. And green vessels, which will use LPG, which may use green hydrogen, which may use electric propulsion, all those will get even higher. So government is looking at various schemes. But another interesting aspect which I want to tell you is, just to get a global picture, you see this graph. Red is China and blue is Japan plus Korea. Two countries, Japan plus Korea. China has overtaken Japan plus Korea 2 years back. So it is more than, as I told you earlier, 50% is China now. And Korea plus Japan is less than 50, it's at 47%. So there is a need for us to take help from countries who are leaders in this. It may not be possible to establish a tie-up between India and China on this, but definitely government is looking at how to take help from Japan and Korea. So they are trying to set up two shipbuilding parks. When I say shipbuilding park, there's a shipyard along with an ancillary park and various other facilities, one in the East Coast and one in the West Coast. They are planning to set up one maybe by South Korea and one maybe by Japan. And they will set up a huge, it'll be a new location or augmentation of facilities of an existing location. But as I told you, existing location, most of them are in cities. So there isn't enough place. But I think government is looking at this. They are looking at also the willingness of the state government, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Orissa, have shown interest. And East Coast is favorable because of water depth. This is an important aspect which I want you to take, is a takeaway for you. If outside the shipyard, the water level is low, you can only put out ships which have got draftless, that means which are not heavy or which are light. At least when they are put in water, they are light. Later, they can become slowly heavy. While in East Coast, the water level is higher. So you can put out big ships. Water depth is a enabling factor for building big ships. While lack of water, like it is there in Goa, it is there in Mumbai, or like it is there even in Cochin to a certain extent, on the West Coast, is not an enabling factor. You have to do many work when the ship is floating and not when it is sitting on land. Productivity is high when you build a ship on land. Productivity is low when you undertake shipbuilding activities when the ship is already floating. And why did you float it? Because you don't have water. So you float the ship prematurely in the production cycle when it is light and do balance activities while it is floating. So East Coast is favorable, but cyclones like Dana will come every year, almost every year. So we have to take care of this in your selection of site. So we'll see what happens on this. So let us go now. Why do you want 1,000 ships? We have finished most of the work, so I'll just run through. I told you aging overseas trade 200. I explained to you. I'm putting another 100 more ships in this category. Why? As I told you, our critical imports, crucial imports, we should try to have more of Indian fleet, oil, gas, green hydrogen. This is the fuel for tomorrow. Minerals, which had to be imported from some other country, because mineral is the new oil now. So I'm keeping another 100 ships between now and 2047 to cater for all this type of cargo. Naval ships 50, I told you. Coast Guard ships 50, I told you. Inland 500 ships, I told you. Inland plus coastal. Wind farms 50 new. So 1,000 ships India requires, no doubt, between now to 2047. How to build 1,000 ships? When will you build it? When will you start it? At what rate it will go? 1,000 ships, let us say we decide to build in 20 years. Let us say we start in 27. Policy is made, indigenization has started, and etc., etc. So 50 ships a year we have to make. 50 ships by all the shipyards together. Some are small ships, some are big ships. Like that, 50. This was done in 2018 to 22 when the government prepared report. Details are there on the slide. More than 50 ships were made. Some were small, many were small, some were big, and they have been able to. So it is possible to do it, but many have been with imported design, so that we should remember. So it is possible. 1,000 ships by 2047 is possible if you start at least in 2027. Start building some foreign overseas trade, some for coastal shipping, some for navy, some for like that. This number slowly we should do. I told you that we require some new type of ships for offshore wind farms and sea mining. They're new activities. We got 1 or 2 ships now to do this, but if you do in many places offshore wind farms and sea mining in East Coast and West Coast, you require more ships. So we need to design preferably Indian design with Indian equipment so that they can be built in India. And even if the government has to pay some money, doesn't matter. It is going to Indian industry only. We're not importing. We're protecting it. So we need to look at this. Over and above, if you still got capacity, then you export ships. But I am looking at a humble number of 1,000 between now to 2047 India requires. With this, I come to conclusions. Indian shipyards in the 75 years since independence has catered predominantly for defense shipbuilding and not for commercial shipbuilding, which is very, very vital for foreign trade, which is very vital for economy development. This imbalance in allocation of portfolio, whether you will build defense or you will build commercial. Oh, I'm too busy with defense, I cannot do commercial. Or government says, no, defense is more important than commercial. So this imbalance in allocation has hurt us on the economy front. There's no doubt about it. We need to overcome this in some manner. I told you about 0.12%. We can feel very proud of our defense shipbuilding. But if you go into details, almost every defense project has had time overrun and cost over. We have paid more money for the item which the Navy has received or the Coast Guard has received. So some introspection is required on productivity. I've already talked about it. So I leave it at that. But the fact is that commercial shipbuilding has been neglected. And we are concentrated on defense where it has not been productive enough. Results are good. Slowly it has come, but it should have been better. Now you want to become 5th rank and 10th rank, etc. So one of the constraint is domestic availability of material. Go for a dedicated indigenization drive, like Navy did in 1970s onwards. The last 50 plus years, Navy has been driving indigenization. I think somebody needs to do this for commercial shipbuilding. Which organization should be tasked, or a new organization should be formed, etc. The government has to take a view on this. It has to be pushed. Otherwise, shipyards will be at the mercy of imported design and imported equipment, materials by suppliers from other countries. I told you about new types of ships are required for offshore wind farms, and so design talent needs to be augmented. We need to build up. We already got manpower. Every year, nearly 1,000 naval architects pass out from India's colleges. 1,000 naval architects, almost 1,000, about 900 something, pass out. And a large percentage is not working in that profession. They take their degree and they're working in some other subject or some other field. There's a need to channelize this knowledge of naval architects passing out in great numbers from Indian colleges into the profession in which they have been educated, where they have the knowledge, basic knowledge. I think this needs to be looked at. I say design consolidation is an important factor. 1,000 ships, I already told you. Government can look at allocation, how to allocate this 1,000 ships amongst its shipbuilding yards. Government also should wean road and rail transportation wherever water transportation is feasible. If you want to use Ganges, Ganga has to be used for transportation. It is already being used to take to Bangladesh, but I think that this is not going to happen in the present context. We should utilize more, and therefore road and rail has to give way. It may take more time to go by water, but it is cheaper and it is less polluting. It may take a little more time, but it is better for the environment and for the economy. So this needs to be considered. And I've already told you how inland water has been integrated with coastal shipping. So all these reforms and policies which are there in the MYV documents of 2030 and 2047, it is possible to build 50 ships a year. That is 1,000 ships by 2047. That's all we want for our country. Commercial sector is taken care of. New technologies are taken care of. Sea mining is taken care of. Navy is taken care of. Coast Guard is taken care of. Everybody is taken care of. Get the act to build more ships productively with maximum indigenous content. Moment you do this, your global rank will go up. Domestic requirements of ships will be met with minimum imports. Ship design capability will go up, will be enhanced. We can design ships for some other countries. Economy will benefit. I told you, more number of ships building means employment potential multiplier is there, more than 5 times. I talked about this. And most importantly, Atmanirbhar of Bharat will get consolidated and get re-established in an activity which we were very good 200 years back. When I talked about the history, 200 years back, we are one of the leading shipbuilding nations when it was wooden hull and wind propulsion or sails were used. Now it's a time to come back to prominence by some work which is very well coordinated through government reforms, as well as allocation of resources done. Allocation of resources may be for design manpower, it could be for allocation of projects, it could be for requirement of finance, give more subsidy, etc. Whatever you want to do. But we need to get into Atmanirbhar status in shipbuilding, at least by 2046. We have lost the race the last 200 years. Let us regain the supreme position. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patient hearing. If there are any questions, I can take it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. നമ്മൾ സാധാരണ കൊച്ചിൻ ഷിപ്പ്യാർഡ്, വിശാഖപട്ടണം ഷിപ്പ്യാർഡ്, ഷിപ്പ് ടെക്നോളജി ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റ്, കുസാറ്റ്, ഇങ്ങനെയൊക്കെയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളെ കുറിച്ച് മാത്രമേ നമ്മൾ ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചിരുന്നുള്ളൂ. പക്ഷെ ഇന്ത്യയുടെ ഷിപ്പ് ബിൽഡിങ്ങിനുള്ള അച്ചീവ്മെന്റും മുന്നോട്ട് പോകേണ്ട വഴികളൊക്കെ വളരെ കൃത്യമായിട്ട് സാർ അത് എക്സ്പ്ലെയിൻ ചെയ്തു. ഒരുപക്ഷെ ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ ശ്രദ്ധിക്കപ്പെട്ടത് ഒരു ഷിപ്പ് ബിൽഡിംഗ് ഒരു ഇൻഡസ്ട്രിയിലേക്ക് വരുമ്പോൾ എംപ്ലോയ്മെന്റ് മൾട്ടിപ്ലയർ എന്ന നിലയിൽ 6.4 എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു ഇൻഡെക്സിലേക്ക് നമുക്ക് എത്താൻ പറ്റും. അപ്പൊ അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ഷിപ്പ് ബിൽഡിംഗ് വളരെ ഗുണപ്രദമാണ്. പിന്നെ MSME പോലുള്ള അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റിലെ അലോക്കേഷൻസ്, അതുപോലെ കോസ്റ്റൽ ഷിപ്പിംഗ് അഡ്വാൻറ്റേജസ്, ലോജിസ്റ്റിക്കൽ അഡ്വാൻറ്റേജസ്, ഇങ്ങനെ പല രീതിയിൽ ഒരു ഷിപ്പ് ബിൽഡിംഗ് ഇൻഡസ്ട്രി എങ്ങനെ മുന്നോട്ട് പോകണമെന്ന് സാർ വളരെ കൃത്യമായിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞു. ഇന്ത്യയെ സംബന്ധിച്ചോളം 22ാമത്തെ റാങ്കാണ്. അതിന്റെ ഗ്രോത്ത് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ 0.14% ഉള്ളൂ. എങ്കിലും 2047 ഇന്ത്യ അച്ചീവ് ചെയ്യേണ്ട ഒരു ടാർഗറ്റ് കൃത്യമായിട്ട് സാർ അത് എക്സ്പ്ലെയിൻ ചെയ്തു. താങ്ക് യു സർ, താങ്ക് യു വെരി മച്ച്. ഓക്കെ, എന്തെങ്കിലും ഹരിഹരൻ സാർ, can you share something?
മനസ്സിലാക്കിയത് 90% of production is with 3 countries, China, Korea, and Japan. What about the
97%?
97. I said more than 90%. Then how these so-called countries like USA, developed countries, അവർക്ക് ഷിപ്പ് ബിൽഡിംഗ് ഇല്ലേ ഇങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ?
Yeah, good question. See, shipbuilding was very good in USA after Second World War. It was good in Europe also. Slowly, it got superseded by Asian countries where labor is cheaper. I told you some time back, the employment of human labor in shipbuilding is very high. Whatever technologies you may use, whatever techniques you may use in shipbuilding, finally, because of the shape of the vessel, many of the things are not automated. You have to do manually. So labor content is very, very critical. Skill is also important. So slowly it was overtaken by these Asian countries. And the example came from Korea. Korea was the first country. Japan became in 1970s the number one. But Japan went by technology and their own equipment to make. Korea did something different. What Korea did was make sure that they set up huge infrastructure where many ships can be built, and they made sure the ships are built fast. Many techniques were used. That means you will not do construction for a particular part unless all items are available. Then when all items are available, they'll do it fast and finish that portion. Rather than doing an available item, you do this, keep them busy, keep the labor busy. No, they went about in a very methodical way and made sure all items are available through what is called ERP in an organization, to make sure if you want to start the production, every item required for it is made available 1 week before that, so that they're ready to start that particular part of the ship which they're going to make. China did a different way, very intelligent, and I think we should learn. China said, they also built up huge infrastructure. They said, most of the ships which are going to be built are for foreign nationals. China's shipbuilding is not only for China. Most of it is for foreign countries. He wants to build it cheap. Japan was looking at technology. Korea was looking at productivity. But China was looking at profitability. What China did, let us make sure we are able to do it at lower cost. Let's reduce the cost of shipbuilding. I'll give one example. Every ship has got an engine. That engine is almost the size of this room. What they did, engine manufacturers from USA, engine manufacturers from Europe, they said, you please set up a plant in China. I will give you land. I will give you free electricity, free water, free accommodation for whatever your people who are coming to set up stuff. Take my labor. So China got employment there. They got a lot of land. They gave away land, power, this, that, etc. Gave. One more condition. Anything which you make in the factory where I have given subsidy by power, this, that, etc. Whatever you are selling to a Chinese shipyard will be so much percentage discount. Whatever you are selling outside China will not have discount. Okay. They did this for many machines, many equipment. So Chinese shipyards, same engine, for when they quote that engine cost is lower by 15% compared to an Indian shipyard, which is quoting for the same contract. You will find his costs are so low. Why? The government of China had given land and power and something else for the chap to set up a factory, took local labor, produced it, but when he sold to a Chinese shipyard, the cost is low. That is a contract. So slowly you found Chinese ships are cheaper. As such, the speed of working is better, their labor is far more productive, etc. So government reforms like this became big enabling factor, and they produced. We don't have a similar example to give for India. So today, Korea plus Japan has been overtaken by China. I showed you the graph. They are doing a fantastic speed. No, there's a little doubt about quality of work of China. Okay, I should tell that also. You feel sometimes the equipment which they selected, the material they have used are not as good as what Japan used to use. I told you, Japan pursued technology. Korea pursued productivity, but China pursued profitability. So these are the main changes that happened, and I hope we improve. We got lots of improvement to be done. Don't just carried away by what you read in the paper, one ship there, half a ship here, or some submarine here. That stories are not speaking the full aspect of Indian shipbuilding. Indian shipbuilding is not only defense, it is defense plus commercial. Okay, another question. Anybody else?
Yeah, one more question. See, so I'm a bit critical now. We have found that shipbuilding industry is encourages employment because that this is 6 point something. Why our earlier we had a lot of economists at the helm of the affairs. I am not going to name them. Why we have forgotten all this? These people are not taken cue, at least from Japan and China.
I will tell you.
Yeah?
I'll tell you the reason. It's unfortunate. The over-indulgence in defense shipbuilding by India is one of the serious, one of the primary causes. Over-indulgence in defense shipbuilding, it is good. We need to build our own ships and submarines. There's no doubt about it. But we should also build commercial ships, which we did not. We neglected it. And Navy, I'm sorry, I'm an ex-admiral from the Navy, but I should tell you at the national level, Navy monopolized on ship design in the country. The best design bureau in the country is from the Navy. The best designers are naval officers who come from CUSAT now, regularly, every year, 20, 30 people join. What had happened, the development of ship design as a profession outside the Navy was not so good. And the public sector shipyards, which were given the opportunity to do shipbuilding, they worked with Navy as a customer. So Navy as a customer, but Navy is also the designer. So you have a design, customer is a designer also. You imagine that you are building, you're a contractor for a house, and your customer is an architect who's doing his own house design. You find there'll be a lot of problems between the production activity, construction activity, and the design activity. Exactly same project after project after project, it has happened. And when you have such coordination issues, it's not the administrative coordination. It could be selection of an equipment, which Navy will take more time to select. And unless it is selected, the design cannot progress. Unless the design is production cannot happen. So it is Navy induced delays, which has led to many projects getting, and shipyards also have been happy about it. Here is a customer who's taking his own time to finalize. He is causing the delay. We are not causing the delay. Shipyards also took that view. So it's only when the Coast Guard came, this changed. The Coast Guard has been there for the last 50 years. They don't have a design office. So they leave it to shipyard and you design yourself and do it. Coast Guard indigenization, number of ships which have been made on time is more than Navy. But then you can always argue saying they are smaller ships, they are simpler ships, etc. So it's a complicated issue, but project by project, somebody can sit and discuss and analyze. There are lessons to be learned. Some have been learned, some have been relearned, but I think more lessons are still pending to be learned and solutions implemented. That is why commercial shipbuilding has been neglected, because all the resources went to, resources are what? Infrastructure. All the infrastructure went to Navy shipbuilding. You tell me name of one ship, one commercial ship India has built. Can you remember the name? They have built some more than 300 ships in India. Can you tell me one name? Does the public know? But naval ship, you will say, Vikrant, you will say. So the importance it got, the publicity it got, the utilization of resources, okay. So that needs to be corrected. That's what I'm saying. Anybody else?
But actually, this concept is possible.
What is possible?
Commercial shipbuilding is possible in India.
I told you, there are 20 shipyards in India, and I don't see the number going up big. Because shipyard has to be on the coast only. It cannot be landlocked. And water depth is an important issue, as I told you. West Coast is a problem, East Coast is better, but then cyclone is a problem. So looking at all these aspects, maybe some more shipyards may come. Let us say maximum you will go to 25. You have to put all the 25 on the table and consider all of them equal. Go by size. These X numbers are big, and they should build only big ships. These Y numbers are small. Tell them to do small ships. Teach them to do small ships. Support them with design. Support them with finance. Make them stronger and more confident. That's not the case now. The bigger ones take even the smaller ships. And then they give to the smaller guy, you do this on subcontract. Part of it. So you're not allowing allocation proportional to the infrastructure. It should be done. Otherwise, what will happen? This will continue. And overcome these issues regarding design production concurrency. That is why the government started an Institute of Design for Defense Ships in Kozhikode in 2011 under A.K. Antony's Defense Ministry time. I don't know what is the state of that office. I don't think they have even a person to lock the office now. So much of money has gone into it, and it is not being supported. There's a conflict of interest coming on design of naval ships. So this is a serious issue. People have to solve it. If you want to go forward, if you want to remain stagnant, then you don't have to do anything.
Yes.
But we require 1,000 ships by 2047. The country needs.
The target.
I want to ask a question to Hari. Did you feel surprised that India requires 1,000 ships by 2047?
Eh?
Did you get surprised when the notice came from Sabu that 1,000 ships are required in India?
I don't know the subject. How I can be surprised?
No. 1,000 ships is a big number.
No, that's right, but we don't know about the
I
present.
will ask another
How
person.
much we are building every year for our past record, we don't know, But 1,000 is a fairly good number, no doubt.
Correct. Because we don't hear of such big numbers being talked about. And out of 1,000, 900 is commercial. Only 100 is defense. But you hear only about defense.
That's right.
900 commercial ships had to be built. Teacher can പറയും.
Remavati ma'am, please.
തന്ന ക്ലാസ് കേട്ട് എനിക്ക് എന്താ പറഞ്ഞത് ഇതിനെ പറ്റിയിട്ട് നമുക്കൊന്നും ശരിയായിട്ടുള്ള അറിവേ ഉണ്ടായിട്ടില്ല സാറേ. കാരണം കപ്പലിൽ പോണം എന്നുള്ള ഒറ്റൊരു ആഗ്രഹമുണ്ട്, കപ്പലിൽ ഇതുവരെ പോയില്ല എന്നുള്ള. അപ്പൊ സാറ് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് എനിക്ക് അതിൽ ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടത് എംപ്ലോയബിലിറ്റി. കാരണം ഒരാള് ഷിപ്പിനകത്ത് പണിയെടുക്കുമ്പോ 4-5 പേര് പുറത്ത് പണിയെടുക്കുന്നവരായിരിക്കണം. ശരിക്കും അത് ചിന്തിച്ച് നോക്കുമ്പോ കറക്റ്റ് ആണ് സാറേ. എല്ലാ ജോലിയിലും പുറത്ത് ഇങ്ങനെ ഗ്രൗണ്ടിൽ
ബിൽഡിംഗ് കൺസ്ട്രക്ഷനിലും ഇതേമാതിരി ഉണ്ട്. പക്ഷെ ആ റേഷ്യോ കുറവാണ്. കാർ പ്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിലും ഇതേമാതിരി ഉണ്ട്. പക്ഷെ അതും റേഷ്യോ കുറവാണ്
സാറേ. ഷിപ്പിലാണ്. അതിനിപ്പോ സാറ് ഒരുപാട് കാര്യം പറഞ്ഞു. നമ്മളിപ്പം ഇൻഫ്രാസ്ട്രക്ചർ ഇല്ല, സ്കിൽഡ് ഇല്ല, മാൻ പവർ ഇല്ല, ഡിസൈൻ ചെയ്യുമ്പോഴുള്ള ആ ഒരു ഇത് പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ സാറ്. കാരണം ഇതിപ്പം ചൈന ആവട്ടെ, അവര് സെല്ലിങ്ങിന്റെ അവരുടെ ഇത് മനസ്സിലതാണ്, സെല്ല് ചെയ്യണം എന്നുള്ള ഒരൊറ്റ വിചാരമുള്ളത്. നമ്മുടെ ഇതിലിപ്പം പിന്നെ സാറ് പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ എല്ലാം നമ്മൾ തന്നെ ഡിസൈൻ ചെയ്യണമെന്നുള്ള അല്ലേ സാറേ? അങ്ങനല്ലേ? എല്ലാം കറക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ട് നമ്മളെ ഇത് വേറെ എവിടുന്നെങ്കിലും അതിന്റെ ഓരോ പാർട്ട് ഇപ്പം കൊണ്ടുവരാതെ ഓരോന്നും നമ്മൾ തന്നെ സ്കില്ലായിട്ടുള്ള.
ടീച്ചർ, അതല്ല ഞാൻ ഉദ്ദേശിച്ചത്. ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മള് ഇപ്പൊ കൊച്ചിൻ ഷിപ്പ്യാർഡിന് ഒരു കമേഴ്ഷ്യൽ ഷിപ്പ് ഉണ്ടാക്കണം. അപ്പൊ കസ്റ്റമർ ആരാണ്? ഏതോ ഒരു ഗുജറാത്തിലെ ഒരു ബിസിനസ്മാൻ ആണ്, എനിക്ക് ഒരു ഷിപ്പ് ഉണ്ടാക്കി തരണം. ഏത് ടൈപ്പ്? അയാൾ പറയും ഇതാണ്, ഈ ടൈപ്പ് ഷിപ്പ് എനിക്ക് വേണം, എനിക്ക് വലിയ ഇഷ്ടമാണ് ഈ ടൈപ്പ് ഷിപ്പ്. ലെറ്റ് us say it is for മറൈൻ ടൂറിസം, ക്രൂസിന് വേണ്ടിയുള്ള ഷിപ്പ് എന്ന് വെച്ചോളൂ. എനിക്ക് ഇതേമാതിരി ഒരു ഷിപ്പ് വേണം. ശരി, അപ്പോ അയാൾ തപ്പിപ്പിടിച്ച ഡിസൈൻ, ആ ഡിസൈൻ വാങ്ങിക്കുമ്പോ ഡിസൈനർ ഇന്ത്യയിലുള്ള അല്ല, പുറത്തുള്ള ആള്. അയാൾ പറയും ഈ നല്ല ഷിപ്പാണ്, നല്ല ഡിസൈനാണ്, അതിൽ ഒരു ചേഞ്ചും വരുത്താൻ സമ്മതിക്കില്ല. ഇഞ്ചിൻ ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല, പ്രൊപ്പല്ലർ ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല, ജനറേറ്റർ ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല, ഗിയർ ബോക്സ് ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യാൻ. ഇതൊക്കെയാണ് മേജർ എക്സ്പെൻഡിച്ചർ. ഇതെങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്തല്ലേ ഞാൻ ഡിസൈൻ ഐ വിൽ നോട്ട് വാലിഡേറ്റ്, നോ ഗ്യാരണ്ടി. അപ്പൊ ഓണർ എന്ത് പറയും? ശരി, ഞാൻ പുറത്തുള്ള സാധനം തന്നെ വാങ്ങിക്കാം, അല്ലേ? ഇതാണ് കമേഴ്ഷ്യൽ ഷിപ്പിലെ ഒരു പ്രശ്നം. എല്ലാ കമേഴ്ഷ്യൽ ഷിപ്പിന്റെയും ഡിസൈൻ ഇന്ത്യയുടെ പുറത്തുനിന്നാണ് വരുന്നത്, എക്സെപ്റ്റ് ഫോർ സ്മോൾ ഷിപ്സ് വിച്ച് ആർ ബീങ് മെയ്ഡ് ഫോർ കോസ്റ്റൽ ഓർ ഫോർ ഇൻലൻഡ് വാട്ടർ. ബാക്കിയെല്ലാം പുറത്തുനിന്നാണ് വരുന്നത്. ഈ പുറത്തുനിന്ന് വരുന്ന ഷിപ്പിലെല്ലാം ഈ കണ്ടീഷൻ നമ്മൾ അറിയുന്നില്ല. ഈ കണ്ടീഷൻ അയാൾ എന്ത് ചെയ്യും? ഈ മേജർ ഐറ്റംസിൽ നമുക്ക് റിസ്ക് എടുക്കാൻ പറ്റാത്ത ഐറ്റം അവൻ വില കൂട്ടും. വില കൂട്ടി വേണം നമുക്ക് വാങ്ങിക്കാൻ. പക്ഷെ സാധാരണ ഐറ്റം പ്ലൈവുഡ്, കേബിള്, സ്റ്റീല്, പെയിന്റ് ഇതൊക്കെ സാധാരണ ഐറ്റമാണ്, ഇന്ത്യയിൽ അവൈലബിൾ ആണ്. പക്ഷെ അവൻ ഇന്ത്യയുടെ റേറ്റിനെ കാട്ടി കുറയ്ക്കും. മനസ്സിലായില്ലേ? വെളിയിലുള്ളവര്. അപ്പോ ഷിപ്പ്യാർഡ് പറയും നമ്മൾ ഇന്ത്യയിൽ 500 രൂപ ഒരു ടിന്ന്, അവിടെ 450 രൂപയേ ഉള്ളൂ. നമ്മൾ എന്തിനാ ഇവിടെ നിന്ന് വാങ്ങിക്കണം, അവിടെ നിന്ന് വാങ്ങിച്ചാൽ പോലെ. അവർക്ക് ലാഭം കൂടുതലല്ലേ അതില്. Because nobody is worried about the country in this. They're worried about their organization. They're correct. But the fact is, the government has to step in. Like Navy stepped in 1970. You cannot, we will not use this. We will not use British paint. We will use paint made in Mysore. We will not use steel imported. We will use Indian steel, even if it is expensive. So there has to be a law, there has to be a policy saying you have to use Indian items. So what if you give more money for Indian paint? That is going to the Indian company only, no? Money is not going out of India.
Yeah.
So such a broader view has to be taken. And this can happen only when the biggest customer interferes. That is the government. Government has to step in. And shipbuilding, government has not stepped in adequately. Otherwise, that design institute will not be locked in Kozhikode.
അതിന് ആദ്യം ഉടനാണ്, പിന്നെ സ്റ്റീൽ, അതെല്ലാം പറയുമ്പോ ഞാനിങ്ങനെ സാറിന്റെ ക്ലാസ് ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചിരിക്കുകയായിരുന്നു. ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് ആകുമ്പോ നമുക്കിപ്പം പണ്ടെല്ലാം ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് നല്ല നോട്ട്സ് ചെയ്തല്ല, പിന്നെ ഓഫീസുകളിൽ മലയാളം തന്നെ നിർബന്ധമാക്കിയില്ലേ സാർ. അപ്പൊ എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു കുറച്ച് ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് നമ്മളത് പോയി. പക്ഷെ സാറിന്റെ ക്ലാസ് നല്ല മനസ്സിലാവുന്നു. അല്ല, സാറിന്റെ ക്ലാസ് ഇല്ലേ നല്ല രീതിയിൽ മനസ്സിലാവുന്നു. അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ ഇങ്ങനെ കേട്ടിരുന്നു, കാരണം കുറെ അറിവാണ്.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
George sir.
Sabu.
Yes.
Oh.
Sir, unmute. George sir, unmute you. George sir, unmute you.
പറഞ്ഞോളൂ, unmute ചെയ്യൂ.
Unmute ആവുന്നില്ല.
ജ്യോതി unmute ആയി.
താങ്ക് യു സബ് സാർ. സാർ ഒത്തിരി ഇൻഫർമേഷൻസ് കിട്ടി. ഇപ്പൊ ഇത് കേട്ടപ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് തോന്നുമായിരുന്നു, അന്ന് 70കളിൽ നമ്മൾ ഡിഫൻസിന്റെ മാത്രം ഒതുങ്ങാതെ കൊമേഴ്സ്യൽ ഷിപ്പിനോടെ നമ്മൾ നോക്കിയിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ ഒരുപക്ഷെ വലിയൊരു സാധ്യത നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിൽ, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് മാൻ പവർ ഇത്ര അവൈലബിൾ ആയിരിക്കെ, സ്കിൽഡ് ലേബർ ഇത്ര അവൈലബിൾ ആയിരിക്കെ, വലിയൊരു ഗ്രോത്ത്, നമ്മുടെ നാഷണൽ ഗ്രോത്ത് സങ്കല്പിക്കാനാവാത്ത വിധത്തിൽ വളർന്നു പോയേനെ എന്ന് തോന്നിപ്പോകുന്നു. ഒരുപക്ഷെ ആ കാലത്ത് നമ്മുടെ സാമ്പത്തിക ഭദ്രത അത്രയും പറ്റിയതായിരുന്നില്ല. എന്നിരുന്നാലും ഇതിനൊക്കെ ഇഷ്ടം പോലെ ഏജൻസീസ് പണം തരാനുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ചിന്തിക്കാൻ പറ്റിയില്ല. സാറേ, ഇപ്പൊ ഈ കൂട്ടത്തിൽ വേറൊരു കാര്യം ഞാനിപ്പോ ചിന്തിച്ചത്, ഷിപ്പ് ബ്രേക്കിങ്ങിൽ നമ്മൾ നമ്പർ 1 എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഈ ഡെവലപ്ഡ് കൺട്രീസിലൊന്നും ഇത് അനുവദിക്കുന്നുണ്ടാവില്ല ഒരുപക്ഷെ. കാരണം വെച്ചാൽ ഈ വേസ്റ്റ് മുഴുവൻ ഡിസ്പോസ് ചെയ്യാൻ
നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ, ഷിപ്പ് ബ്രേക്കിംഗ് ഇസ് എ ലേബർ ഇന്റൻസീവ് ജോബ്. അടിച്ചു പൊളിക്കണം സെലിബ്രേഷൻ അല്ല, ഷിപ്പിന് അടിച്ച് പീസാക്കി കളയണം. അത് ലേബർ ഇന്റൻസീവ് ആണ്. ലേബർ ഇസ് ചീപ്പ് ഇൻ ഏഷ്യ. ഓക്കെ. ആൻഡ് ഗുജറാത്ത് കോസ്റ്റില് വാട്ടർ ഡെപ്ത് വളരെ കുറവാണ്, ഓർക്കണം. അതായത് ഷിപ്പ് കം ടു ലാൻഡ്, ഓടുന്ന ഷിപ്പ് നേരെ ഓടിച്ച് കരയെ കയറ്റും. അവിടെ വെള്ളമില്ല അധികം. എന്നിട്ട് അവര് ഷിപ്പ് ബ്രേക്കിംഗ് ബിക്കംസ് ഈസി.
അവിടെ നിർത്തിക്കൊണ്ട് തന്നെ
അടിച്ച് പൊളിച്ച് പീസായിട്ട് മാറ്റും. പ്ലസ് ലേബർ ഇസ് ചീപ്പ്. സോ വി ആർ വെരി ഗുഡ് ഇൻ ഷിപ്പ് ബ്രേക്കിംഗ്. വി ആർ നമ്പർ 1 ഇൻ ദ വേൾഡ്. പിന്നെ എൻവയോൺമെന്റ് പ്രൊട്ടക്ഷൻ, ആസ്ബെസ്റ്റാസ് യൂസ് ചെയ്താൽ ഷിപ്പ് ബ്രേക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല. അങ്ങനെ പല റൂൾസും അതിലൊക്കെ ഉണ്ട് ഫോറിൻ കൺട്രീസിൽ. നമ്മൾ അതൊക്കെ കുറച്ച് ഫ്ലൗട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഷിപ്പ് എല്ലാം ബ്രേക്ക് ചെയ്ത് ഇപ്പൊ ഗവൺമെന്റ് അത് ഷിപ്പ് ബിൽഡിംഗ് ആയിട്ട് മിക്സ് ചെയ്യാൻ കമ്പൈൻ ചെയ്യാൻ പോവാണ്. ഒരു ഷിപ്പ് ഈ ബൈ വൺ ഗെറ്റ് വൺ ഫ്രീ എന്നൊക്കെ പറയില്ലേ, അതേമാതിരി ബ്രേക്ക് വൺ ഷിപ്പ് ബിൽഡ് വൺ ഷിപ്പ് ഫ്രീ. ഫ്രീ അല്ല, ആ പൈസ ഇങ്ങോട്ട് ഒരു എമൗണ്ട് ട്രാൻസ്ഫർ ചെയ്യാം. അതാണ് പ്ലാൻ.
അത് കൊള്ളാം, നല്ലതാ.
ശരി, താങ്ക് യു.
ജ്യോതിമാർ സാർ അഡ്മിറ്റ് കേൾക്കുന്നു.
Sir, I would like to ask you one question, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, this a large ship, how much may be the cost of a ship? At least, could you able to tell me?
ലാർജ് ഷിപ്പ് എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ
Large means some
Commercial.
yeah. And now you are showing the mining ship, no, mining ship likewise, not the commercial, but the carrier ships are
വിക്രാന്ത്
there.
വിക്രാന്ത് വാങ്ങിക്കണമെങ്കിൽ ഒരു കയ്യിലൊരു 40,000 കോടി വേണം.
That's why. Not for me, but I was asking you how much will be the cost of
വാർഷിപ്പിന്റെ കോസ്റ്റ് ഡിപെൻഡ് upon the equipment fitted there. അവിടെയാണ് പൈസ.
Yeah.
So if you look at companies, if you are looking at commercial ships, ഒരു 2000 tons ക്യാരി ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു ഷിപ്പ് നമ്മൾ വാങ്ങിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, ജസ്റ്റ് റിമെമ്പർ 2000 ടൺസിന്റെ ഒരു ഷിപ്പ് വാങ്ങിക്കുകയാണ്, നമുക്ക് ആലപ്പുഴയില് എന്താ കായലിൽ കൂടെ അത് പുറത്തു കൊണ്ടുപോയി കൊച്ചി വരെ പോകണം. 2000 ടണ്ണ് എടുക്കാൻ പറ്റണം. 2000 ടണ്ണിന്റെ ഒരു ഷിപ്പ് വാങ്ങിക്കണമെങ്കിൽ ഒരു 20-25 കോടി കിട്ടും. 20-25 കോടിയിൽ ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ പറ്റും ഇന്ത്യയിൽ. അത് ഷിപ്പ്യാർഡിൽ നമ്മളിപ്പോ പല കണ്ടീഷൻസ് ഉണ്ട്. എനിക്ക് അധികം സ്പീഡൊന്നും വേണ്ട, സ്പീഡ് കുറച്ച് മതി. അപ്പോ എഞ്ചിൻ നമ്മൾ സെലക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന കുറച്ച് വില കുറഞ്ഞതായിരിക്കും. നമുക്ക് പയ്യെ പോയാൽ മതി കൊച്ചി വരെ, ധൃതിയൊന്നും ഇല്ല, ഒരു ദിവസം എക്സ്ട്രാ എടുത്താലും കുഴപ്പമില്ല. സോ ദീസ് ആർ ഓൾ ഫാക്ടേഴ്സ്, ബട്ട് ഐ ടോൾഡ് യു റഫ് ഫിഗർ.
Yeah, I know. So somewhat like this only, the cruise ship also is there, right? Some
cruise shipല്
10 floor, 15 floor cruise ship.
And the design is very important, and the internals will be very, very expensive, because അതിന്റെ അകത്ത് ഹോട്ടൽമാരെയും 5-star ഹോട്ടൽമാരെയും സ്വിമ്മിംഗ് പൂളും അത് ഇതൊക്കെ അതിന്റെ അകത്ത് കാണും. സോ ദേ ആർ വെരി എക്സ്പെൻസീവ്. അതിന്റെ ഷിപ്പിൽ പറയുന്നതാണ് ഔട്ട്ഫിറ്റിംഗ് എന്ന് പറയും. അതൊക്കെ അതിന്റെ ഔട്ട്ഫിറ്റിംഗ് എക്സ്പെൻഡിച്ചർ ഇസ് വെരി, വെരി ഹൈ.
Depends. I had an opportunity to travel Atlanta cruise, 10 floor. Yeah. So inside is exactly like a Taj hotel. All the floors
cruise ships are expensive, but I don't think India is in that segment. അവിടെ എത്തിയിട്ടില്ല ഇന്ത്യ.
Okay. Then one more question,
I think if you look at my 1000 ships ലിസ്റ്റിൽ മറീൻ ടൂറിസ്റ്റിനെ പറ്റി ഒരു ഷിപ്പ് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടില്ല. നമ്മളവിടെ എത്തിയിട്ടില്ല ഇതുവരെ. നമുക്ക് ബാക്കിയുള്ള തന്നെ കുറെ ഉണ്ട് ബാക്കി.
Sir, have you been in any council or the board of in our Navy still?
Council?
Navy, you are a retired man, but even then, with this potential of knowledge about everything, so I feel you may be in some council or your
Navy service കഴിഞ്ഞു.
Whether India is utilizing.
ജ്യോതി, നേവി സർവീസ് കഴിഞ്ഞു. 5 കൊല്ലം ഞാൻ MD CEO ആയിരുന്നു ലാസൻ ട്യൂബ്രോന്റെ ഷിപ്പ് ബിൽഡിംഗ് കമ്പനിയിൽ. അത് കഴിഞ്ഞിപ്പോ സൊസൈറ്റിക്ക് തിരിച്ചു കൊടുക്കുകയാണ് എന്റെ നോളജ്. അതാണ് ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ.
ഇന്ത്യ ഗവൺമെന്റ് ഓൾസോ റിക്വയർസ് സച്ച്
ഗിവ് ബാക്ക് ടു കൺട്രി ആണ്.
I will give suggestion. Okay.
Thank you.
Then one more, sir. One more question. We even though you are a Navy man, but I would like to, whether we are building aeroplane.
Aeroplane ഉണ്ടല്ലോ, HAL ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നുണ്ടല്ലോ.
കമേഴ്ഷ്യൽ ഫ്ലൈറ്റുകൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ?
കമേഴ്ഷ്യൽ ഫ്ലൈറ്റ് തുടങ്ങിയിട്ടില്ല. പക്ഷെ എയർബസും ടാറ്റയും ജോയിൻ ചെയ്ത് ഒരു ചെറിയ മീൻസ് 100 പാസഞ്ചേഴ്സിന്റെ ഒരു എയറോപ്ലെയിനിന്റെ ഡിസൈൻ ഒക്കെ ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടെന്നൊക്കെ പേപ്പറിൽ വായിച്ചു ഞാൻ.
ബട്ട് എൻജിൻ വിൽ ബി ഫ്രം ഔട്ട്സൈഡ് അല്ലേ?
അതെ.
അതിന് നമ്മളായിട്ടില്ല.
നമ്മൾ ആ ലെവൽ എത്തിയിട്ടില്ല.
സ്റ്റിൽ അമ്മേ അതാണ്.
നമ്മൾ എഞ്ചിനൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നത് മാരുതി കാറിനേ ഉള്ളൂ.
ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ.
ബാക്കിയുള്ള ബെൻസും ഹ്യൂണ്ടായും BMW കാറിന്റെ ഒക്കെ എഞ്ചിൻ ഇപ്പോഴും ഇമ്പോർട്ടഡ് ആണ്.
ഇതിപ്പം വലിയൊരു ഇതാണ് സാറേ. കാരണം എൻ്റെ ധാരണ എന്താ അറിയോ, we are capable of doing all these things, and I think that then all airlines private airlines also are building in our own country, but still we are not able to produce one engine.
അതെ, കുറെ we have got lot of engineering developments to capture. Sabu, any other question?
Okay sir.
Okay, വേറെ ആരെങ്കിലും Homanam teacher or Snehalata ma'am anything to talk? Otherwise we will stop.
Anybody else?
നല്ല
Yeah, madam.
വളരെ സ്റ്റക്കായി പോകുന്ന, ഇരുന്ന് സ്റ്റക്കാകുന്ന രീതിയിലുള്ള ഇൻഫർമേഷൻസും ഒത്തിരി നല്ല ക്ലാസ് ആയിരുന്നു. പിന്നെ എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്ന കോഴിക്കോടല്ല ഏഴിമലയായിരിക്കും സാർ ഉദ്ദേശിച്ചതെന്ന് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു.
അല്ലല്ല, കോഴിക്കോട്.
ഞാൻ അക്കാദമിയുടെ കാലത്ത്
ഡിസൈൻ
ഏഴിമലയാണ്.
ഓഫീസല്ലേ? ഡിസൈൻ ഓഫീസല്ലേ അത്? ഏഴുമലയല്ല, കോഴിക്കോട് എന്നാണ് എന്റെ ഓർമ്മ. എക്സാക്ട് അഡ്രസ് എനിക്ക് അറിഞ്ഞൂടാ. ആ ഓഫീസിന്റെ പേരാണ് നിർദ്ദേശ്. അപ്പോ നിങ്ങൾ നിർദ്ദേശ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് ഗൂഗിൾ ചെയ്താൽ മിനിസ്ട്രി ഓഫ് ഡിഫൻസ് നിർദ്ദേശ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അതിന്റെ അഡ്രസ് കിട്ടും.
താങ്ക് യു സർ.
Okay, so thank you sir, thank you very much for a wonderful.
Okay, thank you very much. Sabu, really
Yes.
enjoyed. So believe 1,000 ships are required for India.
Sure sir, sure. We wait for that.
Bye.
നമ്മുടെ കാലം നടക്കില്ല.
അതാണ് ശരി. അപ്പൊ
അത് ചോദ്യാണ്.
ബൈ ബൈ.
ഓക്കെ സർ, താങ്ക് യു സർ.
മക്കളും പോകട്ടെ സാർ. മക്കളെ രക്ഷപ്പെടുന്നു.
അല്ല, ഒരു ഓൾഡ് മാൻ ഒരു മരം നടന്നിടത്താണ് ലോകം നിലനിൽക്കുന്നത്.
Okay, see you. Bye. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Good night,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you.